The mountain cabin looked like a mistake carved into stone, its roof sagging under decades of snow, its windows blackened by time, its door hanging as if even the wind had tried to leave and failed. On the night Ethan Cole reached it, abandoned by everyone who once called him family. He stood in the freezing dark with only his old army jacket, a battered backpack, and a dog who refused to give up on him. What no one could see in that moment was that this ruined place would become the only home that ever truly saved him. If you believe in the silent hero, in second chances, and in the quiet strength of people who rebuild their lives when no one is watching, take a moment now to like this video, share it, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this survive because people like you still believe hope can grow in the harshest places. Ethan Cole had once wore a uniform that made strangers thank him in grocery stores. He had served 2 tours overseas, carried scars he never talked about, and returned home believing that sacrifice meant something. But war does not always end when the plane lands. Nightmares followed him. Loud noises tightened his chest. Jobs slipped through his fingers because sleep never came when it should. Slowly, the people who promised to stand by him grew tired of waiting for him to be whole again. His parents told him he needed help, but offered none. His brother stopped answering calls. Friends faded into polite distance. When his marriage collapsed under the weight of unspoken pain, Ethan found himself alone with a dog he had rescued from a shelter years earlier. That dog, Max, had been labeled difficult, too quiet, too alert, too broken. Ethan saw himself in those eyes and brought Max home without hesitation. When the money ran out and the couch offers disappeared, Ethan packed what he'd carry and headed into the mountains of Colorado, guided by an old map and a rumor about an abandoned ranger cabin no one wanted. Winter was already creeping down the slopes when he arrived, snow biting through his boots, lungs burning with every step. Max walked ahead, steady and certain, as if he already knew this place mattered. The cabin was worse than Ethan imagined. The floorboards were cracked. The fireplace was filled with debris. The roof leaked, but it was shelter, and shelter was enough. That first night, Ethan lit a fire using scraps of wood and broken furniture, wrapping himself in mats and blankets scavenged from forgotten storage chests. The wind howled outside like it was testing their resolve, but Max pressed close, his warmth grounding Ethan in the present. Days turned into weeks. Ethan learned the rhythm of survival again, not unlike the routines that once kept him alive overseas. He repaired what he could with his hands, using old tools left behind and scraps pulled from a forest. He patched the roof with salvage metal. He sealed cracks with mud and pine resin. He learned which trails were safest, which streams still ran beneath ice, and how to listen to the mountain instead of fighting it. Isolation brought clarity. Without constant noise, Ethan faced the memories he had buried. The faces, the losses, the guilt of surviving when others did not. Some nights he broke down by the fire, hands shaking, tears falling freely for the first time in years. Max stayed with him through it all, silent and loyal, a steady presence reminding him he was not completely alone. Spring arrived slowly, peeling back snow to reveal wildflowers and new life. With warmer days came small signs of possibility. Ethan planted a modest garden using seeds found in the cabin. He fixed the chimney properly. He built a sturdy door that locked out both cold and fear. The cabin began to change, not just in structure, but in spirit. What was once a ruin became a refuge. Word of the veteran living on the mountain spread through nearby towns. Some locals scoffed, calling him a drifter hiding from reality. Others admired his resilience from a distance. A few hikers stopped by, leaving supplies quietly on a stump nearby. Ethan never asked for help, but he accepted it with gratitude when it appeared, understanding now that strength did not mean isolation. One afternoon, a Forest Service official hiked up to check on the cabin, surprised to find it restored. Records showed it had been forgotten, left unclaimed for decades. The official saw no threat, only a man who had given new life to something broken. Paperwork was filed. Permissions were granted. The cabin became legally Ethan's, a rare gift given not out of charity, but recognition. With stability came healing. Ethan's hands grew steadier. His sleep improved. The mountains taught him patience, and Max taught him trust. Together, they hiked trails once too intimidating, stood on ridges where the world felt wide and forgiving. Ethan began carving small wooden figures, selling them in town for modest income. Each piece carried the quiet story of rebuilding. Years passed. The cabin transformed into something beautiful. Solar panels glinted on the roof. A vegetable garden flourished. Wind chimes hung by the porch, singing softly with every breeze. Visitors who made the climb were stunned by the transformation, by how warmth and care could reshape even the most forgotten places. Ethan welcomed them kindly, offering tea and a place to rest, never asking for explanations or judging where they came from. His family eventually heard about the cabin, about the veteran who had turned isolation into sanctuary. Letters arrived, awkward and late, filled with apologies that came after the hardest years had already passed. Ethan read them by the fire, feeling neither anger nor longing, only acceptance. He had built a life without them, and while forgiveness was possible, dependence was not. Max grew older, his steps slower, his muzzle graying. Ethan adjusted, carrying him when trails were too steep, building ramps around the cabin. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped behind the peaks, Max rested his head on Ethan's knee, content. The bond between them was forged not in words, but in shared survival and unconditional loyalty. Just before the ending, take a moment to comment below and share what the story made you feel or what it taught you about resilience and second chances. Your voice might be the encouragement someone else needs today. When winter returned years later, the cabin stood strong against storms that once would have destroyed it. Inside, warmth glowed from the hearth, laughter echoed from visiting hikers, and peace settled where despair once lived. Ethan understood now that being abandoned had not been the end of his story. It was the beginning of one he wrote himself, with patience, courage, and a dog who never stopped believing. The ruined mountain cabin did not become paradise because of money or miracles. It became paradise because a broken man chose to stay, to build, and to believe that even the most forgotten places can be transformed when someone refuses to give up.